Okay, so we are discussing Death of a Salesman, Part 2. I chose the question that dealt with, it's a long question, but it dealt with Willie and technology, and I thought this was really interesting because it's something that we deal with even today. Now, if we're lucky, all of us will age, because the alternative to that is not pleasant. You either grow old or you die. So I just turned 50, and this is really resonating with me. And I'll tell all the youngins out there that there will come a day when you look in the bathroom mirror and you see your parents' face staring back at you, and it is a shock and it is depressing, but it is unavoidable. Now, in Latin, there is a phrase called tempus fugit, which means time flies, and it does. As we grow older, we slow down, but the world does not slow down. It is relentless, and it just keeps going. And it seems today that it probably goes even faster and faster. Change is just coming so fast all the time. The play takes place in the mid 20th century, right after World War II, and the 20th century is, of course, just an incredible time in history. There was more technological advancement in those 100 years than the previous 1,000 years combined. It's just a dizzying pace, and especially after World War II, which is when the play is set. Now, there are several instances in the play with Willie talking about technology of the past. He's lamenting a car they used to have that's better than the one he has now. He's talking about appliances at one point where he says, "Who ever heard of a Hastings refrigerator? I certainly never have. Once in my life, I would like to own something outright before it's broken. I'm always in a race with the junkyard. I just finished paying for the car, and it's on its last legs. And the refrigerator consumes belts like a goddamn maniac." They time those things. They time them so that when you finally paid for them, they're used up. He's talking about technology, of course, but we also use people up, and that's in the play. I grew up, went to school in the 80s and 90s, and I can remember in high school laughing at our teachers who could not figure out how to operate a VCR. It was just beyond them. They were so confused by it. You put a tape in, you hit play. Couldn't be simpler. But it's much the same thing. It was new to them, and they just were lost by it. And my own mother is always complaining that she can't operate, or her tablet isn't working right. And whenever we look at it for her, it's because she's got 500 windows open in the background that she's never bothered to close. And no matter how many times we tell her, you got to close the windows in the internet, she never does. Old people can have a hard time adjusting to technology. At one point, Willie's talking to his boss, Howard, and Howard has this tape recorder, which is not advanced to us, but at the time it would have been probably a miracle. And he says to Willie, "They're only $150, that's all. And you just can't do without it." Howard is such an ass. What a terrible character. He says, "Supposing you want to hear Jack Benny. All you have to do is have the maid turn on the radio, and the machine will record it for you." It's fantastic. And of course, Willie just can't wrap his head around it, can't figure out how to use it, and makes a mess of it. I think the technology use in the play is kind of a symbol for, really, like I said, how we use people up, about people being left behind. And this resonates very much in our own current time. And I don't want to step on anything offensive here, but I think, the point is there were people who could not wrap their heads around us having a black president. There are people who just can't get used to the idea that gay people can get married, or that can't process that gender now we know scientifically is more complicated than just boy or girl, that there's a spectrum, that technology drives society, it drives our society. And the older we get, sometimes the harder it is to adapt to it. You get trapped in thinking that there was a better time before. There was a golden age in the past where things were better. And of course, it's a fantasy, because when you lived in those times, you thought the time before that was better. There is no better time. And so, it just doesn't work that way. There is no, make America great again or go back to a better time or whatever. It doesn't work that way. So I think when Willie's talking about how the city is built up around his house and basically it's suffocating his home and his family, talking about the cars, talking about the appliances, he's really talking about how he's being left behind. And although the play doesn't specifically say so, when he is fired by his boss, Howard, Howard says, I've been meaning to talk to you. We don't want you to represent us anymore. And here's this young man, Howard, with this new technology, and we can kind of infer that maybe Willie's idea of what sales are, networking with people and glad handing and patting people on the back and all that, is outdated. That he has not kept up with new methods and new technologies, new products, probably. So he's a relic, and it's tragic and it's sad, and it's something that we all fear, you know, no longer being useful, no longer being needed. And I think that's something that's really at the heart of this play is people being left behind, being outdated, outmoded, and forgotten. Thank you.